Sie hören Sport und Musik.
Das Spiel ist aus! Deutschland ist Weltmeister!
In a world where fans fight over whether to call it football, or soccer, two German men defy the odds and call it Fußball. Bringing you inside the German-American football experience. And now, here are your hosts, the Schnitzel Boys.
Happy Daylight Savings Time. Daylight Savings Monday.
Why do we still do that?
I know, it's ridiculous. I'm just thinking about it.
It's always, every time
So do
this
they have
happens around March. First of all, was it always in March? I was like, already?
I never know what it
this?
is. I never know
And
what
then,
it is. Probably.
And then it's always a bad weekend. It's always, every time it happens, you're like, oh, not this weekend.
Well, yeah, that's a whole can of worms. I work late nights. I work graveyards. And my shift was really
You
short
had to
that
work.
day.
You had to work an hour less. That's good.
Yeah, without realizing. When I was done, I'm like, why was my shift so short?
Well, that's
then-
nice.
Because cell phones change it automatically. Well, I get paid an hour less, so it's not that nice. I guess I get the hour later when I get
in the fall. I guess you get to do.
I
it
get an
again.
extra long shift in the fall. But yeah, I think it's built for farmers from 100 years ago, and I don't think it really serves most people anymore. And I don't know, do they have daylight savings in Europe?
They do, but it's not at the same time. So it's like for a few weeks. In Europe, they do it later. So I think for a few weeks, we are now an hour. It's now usually 6 hours in Germany. Now it's 5 hours for the next few weeks until they catch up.
Then it'll be 6 hours again.
And then it'll be 6 hours again. That's
And
why
that's
why all the Champions League games tomorrow are at weird times.
Ah.
Yeah,
they're at 6 in the morning tomorrow. No. What are they? Let's see.
Well,
Here in LA,
you're an hour closer, right? Like, so it's actually better for you.
Further, because I'm west.
Wait,
closer.
Well, it's now. It starts an hour later, so that's better for you because it's not 6. It's like, whatever.
They're at 1 o'clock. I guess usually they're at 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Wait, it's usually noon on your end. Yeah. And 3 here, and now it's 4. So if it was early in the morning, it'd be better for you because you could sleep in an extra hour.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? It's just, I just Google it day of when it's on, and I flip it on.
I know, it's like, it's just, anyway, yeah, daylight savings time. But what more importantly, the Schnitzel Boys curse, the reverse Schnitzel Boys curse worked again. I am terrible at predicting things. I don't know if people know this by now, but I said last Monday, that Bochum was my team. My poor Bochum was going to be last for the rest of the season. Could not have been more wrong. 14th place. Went completely left the relegation zone. Won pretty convincingly, I thought. 2-0 in Cologne, who we kind of were hyping as like a decent team. They started the Rückrunde, the second. They started pretty well this year, but then now they're kind of headed towards the relegation zone also, kind of slowly. I mean, they still have a few points. But yeah, Bochum 14th. Very convincing win. I mean, it was not pretty, of course.
You jumped up 6 spots pretty much, right?
From
5 spots.
18 to 14. Yeah.
Oh, so four spots.
Left 4 teams behind. Yeah.
All the failing teams we were talking about last week continue to fail. Because remember how I mentioned it's not necessarily rooting for Bochum as much as it is rooting against Stuttgart and Hoffenheim and clubs like that.
Right.
But Bochum
did
well. So it was twofold. Bochum beat Köln not by 1 goal, but by 2 goals. A good 2-0 win against Red Hot Köln. And then Stuttgart and Hoffenheim and
Nobody else won.
Schalke only got 1 point, which was good for them. They actually had a good game. So Schalke is the only club in that bottom tier that you should really be worried about.
Well, Schalke has been. I think if you only counting the Rückrunde, the reverse, the second half of the season so far, I think they're like in 7th. So they've been doing quite well.
Yeah.
But like on the other hand, Hoffenheim may not win another game. Pellegrino Matarazzo, they've lost 7 in a row. They have lost every game in the Rückrunde. 7 games, 7 losses. So yeah, if they don't get another point, then Bochum will finish ahead of them.
Yeah, it's looking good for Bochum. Have ye a little faith. They're at 22 points right now, and what is it? The match day 23. Which match day is it?
This was 24. Yeah,
24. Usually, the conventional wisdom is to stay up. You have to have 40 points.
Well, for sure, right? Definitely 40 points. I think it's no, exactly. Definitely averaging less than 1 point a game. To have five teams average less than a point a game is unusual. I think
that's right.
This late in the season, yeah, that is true. I think in most other years, Bochum would be pretty far behind. But yeah, all these other teams can't do
They're not
it.
getting points either. So.
Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, Stuttgart probably pretty happy getting a point in Frankfurt. Schalke probably pretty happy getting a point at home against Dortmund. Hertha got a point at home against Mainz. Probably
red hot Mainz.
They were hoping to, so these were all sort of not terrible, except like Hoffenheim is really the team that just seems in free fall, like that they just cannot. But even they did not. They didn't get blown out. They had it's a 2-1 lost 2-1 in Freiburg. Although that game was not as close as the result. I mean, as the result suggests, Freiburg was pretty dominant, but they were tied until the very last, like 89th minute. Freiburg got the winner, so they also felt like they maybe could have gotten something out of their game. So it's not like. I mean, I'm not like thinking, oh, now everything is all hunky dory. I think we're gonna still struggle. The goal differential doesn't lie, and I think it's on both ends. You can see that, like Bochum is in there in the mix, but the goal differential is pretty significantly worse than everybody else's, and that says something. And I think the same is true at the top. You have the race is still close, but Bayern has a pretty significant goal differential, and also now 2 points up over Dortmund. They had a wild. Did you see that game? The game against Augsburg is a wild game.
Oh yeah, I saw. I didn't see all of it, unfortunately. It was an 8-goal thriller, right? 5-3. One of the rarest scores in soccer. You don't see a lot of 5-3.
Not a lot of 5-3s. Yeah.
No, and I think my theory is that like usually it's tight or it's a blowout. So usually it's like 5-2, which is a blowout, or it's like 3-2, which is tight. 5-3 suggests it's almost a blowout from both ends. That's because like they lost. Augsburg lost, but they scored 3 goals.
And they did get the lead. They took the lead very early. Exactly. And so then I guess it was just the early Bayern falling behind early just forced them to open up immediately. And then it was just kind of up and down like that.
Before we move on to the top, I just want to mention on the bottom again.
Oh yeah.
Although you're bad at predicting, I'm really good at predicting. I'm like a really, really good predictor.
Okay.
I'm a full super analyst. And I predict you should be lucky that you're in the mix, right? Bochum's in the mix. Just like
very much so. Very much so. I definitely before this, I mean, I've said this throughout the year. I did not have a lot of confidence in the squad. I did not think that this was gonna be a good year. So yeah, the fact that we're in the mix is a positive. But please continue.
The quality is there. I predict that Bochum will have a very, very exciting. I believe they'll be in the mix the whole season, and they'll have a very, very exciting 34th game. It's going to be a very exciting last day in the Bundesliga. for all the bottom feeder clubs and also likely the top feeder clubs because everyone's still sort of in the mix. I predict who's Bochum playing the last week? Someone.
Oh, no idea. Let's look.
Definitely someone.
I'm not looking that
But anyway,
far ahead. Hold
doesn't
on.
matter.
I got it. I'm
It's going to be a big game.
Bayer Leverkusen at home.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game. And it's going to be a 6-pointer for both. Bayer Leverkusen's going to be fighting for a spot, maybe in the Europa League, maybe. And Bochum's going to be trying to get that 17th or 16th or 15th spot. So that's what I predict. That'll be a fun game, one to watch. Mark your calendars, gents.
What are you? No. But what are you exactly predicting? Who's going up? Who's going down? Who's staying up?
No, I didn't say that. I just said there will be.
You're just predicting there'll be a final game of the season where people will play each other.
Your prediction was their last place eliminated by week 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
No. They're in the mix. They're going to grab points. They're not going to win every game moving forward, but they're going to grab some ties and some wins. They're going to get some points, and they're going to go down and up and down and up and down and up. And then they're going to tie Bayer Leverkusen, which will maybe keep them in 16th, perhaps, so they can do the relegation playoff. I think Hoffenheim is going bye-bye this year. That's my sort of bigger prediction. Because Hoffenheim was a fake club, right? One of those, like Dietmar Hopp, the founder of some tech company, gave $1 billion, and back then it was only needed was millions. And Hoffenheim became this big club, and they've been around, and then people got used to it. They're like, Hoffenheim was a club, but I think all that's finally crashing, and Hoffenheim is going to make its way back down the second division finally.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, they do not have the fan base. The intense fan base that kind of would push them through this,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think club.
You heard, and they're one of those, like you were saying, they're one of those kind of somebody put up some money, and they don't have that following, so they are not super battle tested when it comes to relegation. I mean, you could hear the Bochum fans in Köln. Köln is like 45-minute drive from Bochum, so pretty good road support. People showed up, and I think, I mean, exactly, like for the Bochum faithful, this is catnip right here. It's like this is just the this is just the way of life.
Yeah.
Battle against relegation, and they're like, oh, we're going to Cologne, we're going on the road,
Christmas.
we're going. This is what we do, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, and then we show up in Bundesliga 2 or Bundesliga 1, whatever, It's like, it's just sort of part of the whole experience. And Hoffenheim probably, the few fans they have are pretty fair weather to begin with. I don't know if they probably are at this point the number one candidate to go down. I agree.
Well, Hoffenheim is a very small suburb of Heidelberg, right? And Heidelberg
where I was conceived.
Whoa, it's where my mom went to college.
Oh,
maybe she was watching. I don't know. Anywho, this has been many years ago. My mom went to college in I don't know how long, early 70s.
Well, I'm sure my parents. Early 70s. Yeah, so this would
maybe late 60s.
I was conceived. In
late
69. No, my mother did not. She did not go to college. She went to she was like a hospital tech type person.
Okay.
She went to school for that. And my father, they knew each other. They knew each other as children, and he was always very impressed with her, but she was a year older, so she kind of didn't take him seriously. But when she went away to Heidelberg, he followed her and came to visit, and one thing led to another, and then they had a shotgun wedding not too much after that.
Wow. See, that's so romantic. Nowadays, if you did that, if you followed someone, you'd be in trouble. It'd be a true crime. not to cast aspersions on the earth.
What do you mean? I mean, I think this was all consensual. There was it's not like he was It's not like he was camping out outside of our house waiting for her to come out. I mean, this was with her.
You weren't there. You don't know.
Approval.
You weren't there.
Listen, what are you saying about my?
Nothing. I watched too much true crime. Anyway, let's do the math here. I'm trying to think. If my mom was, that would have been, that might have been before her. She was probably there in the early 70s, so it might have been a little bit after that. Though.
Well, I mean, presumably she was not involved.
I mean, presumably, but we both, neither of us were there, so we don't know.
We are. Well, if you're, well, anyway, okay.
Anyway, Heidelberg is a college. It's a big city with a big college.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It has an old town. It's a very, it's one of the, it's one of the more.
But Hoffenheim isn't. Hoffenheim is just a suburb of that town. It's like right outside that town. I thought. Or am I wrong? I'm not the best.
No, it turns out I don't think I really know where Hoffenheim is. I'm gonna look.
Yeah, do that for me because I might be talking out of school. Because I asked my parents about this, and that's what my mom said. Hoffenheim is a tiny. It's like they have a 30,000 seater stadium, but there's not even 30,000 people in Hoffenheim. Like it's ridiculously small suburb. So their people have to come from something like Heidelberg, which never really had a football club, or the football club is probably smaller.
So Hoffenheim is right outside of Sinsheim, which also is not very big. And then, Heidelberg is the next sort of bigger town. You are correct. I don't know, like calling it a suburb is probably like Leimen, where Boris Becker is from. That's a suburb of Heidelberg. Hoffenheim is like a half hour away, which by German standards.
Yeah, that's like for America, that's like 2 hours away.
Yeah, probably. Right. Like people,
In America, 30 minutes is a good commute. In Germany, 30 minutes is a place they've never visited.
It's before. Like, exactly. Away. That's exactly true. Like we had relatives in Unna, which is like an hour away from Mülheim, where I grew up. It's just past Dortmund, and so it's like an hour drive, and it was like we were going. We had to.
It's always an event.
Oh, we're going to Unna. You got to better pack some snacks. This is going to be an all-day thing. It's like a huge trip.
When my mom was a kid, they would drive from Bad Oldesloe, which is that's like 45 minutes north of Hamburg, to the Ostsee, I think, or whatever the sea, which is only like a 45-minute, hour-long drive, really. And then her parents would cook pork cutlets, which is like fried pork chops, pretty much.
Yep.
Pack them.
Bone in. Cutlet is bone in, yeah.
Bone in, pack them up, drive. They had a rest area halfway in the drive where they'd stop for lunch so they could eat lunch to keep the trip going. Like it was a whole thing. It was it's like where in New York, an hour is an average commute time.
It's like you just go exactly. You just go A to B. No, that's true. This is also why I think maybe we have talked about this before. This is also why this whole brandification or metropolization of the Ruhrgebiet never really caught on. This was like because there's all these towns and they add up to this gigantic massive people. I think it's like 17 million people within a 45 minute radius of people I guess this was in the 80s or 90s. There was this campaign, Ruhrgebiet, ein starkes Stück Deutschland. And it was like, just basically creating a whole out of all these little towns. And they were going to get the Olympics or whatever. There were all these efforts made, and it just never really caught on because people just don't think that way. People are not like, even though from Essen to Bochum, it's like 15 minutes. It's like, oh, you never go. It's like, why would I go? Why do I go there? This is my town, So it's not. There's never that mindset of like, oh, we're all part of this metropolis. No.
Yeah, they hate each other fervently. I mean, like Ruhrgebiet, the mentality of the Ruhrgebiet, which is the German Rust Belt, is not a metropolitan mentality. It's the opposite. No. It's a small town mentality.
Very, very much everybody is. Everybody goes to. I mean, my mother, growing up in Mülheim, she would go right. We would go to Essen to shop, but that was literally right next door. And then my mother would have these like varying flavors of the month, like for example, which Christmas market was the nicest. Like she would sometimes go to, we're going to go to Mörs today because they have the nicest Christmas market. It's like, okay, so that would like be So, but I think that was above average in terms of just Ruhrgebietswanderlust.
Well, now it's a little different too because that's very cool. I love, but like I follow this vlogger who's from that area, from Krefeld, which is not too far.
Yeah.
And pretty much she's just like, no one even shops in Krefeld anymore. Everyone goes to Dusseldorf or whatever. Like now it's like it's more common to do the 30-minute trek off to some mega mart somewhere.
Well, because there are also now, I mean, there's now malls, you know. It used to be the inner cities, because in Germany's the land of the Fußgängerzone, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like the pedestrian only. Like usually the downtowns were close to car traffic, so you would, you know, walk around and go from shop to shop, and that was a nice thing. But over the years, you know, the American way caught on, and then it was considered inconvenient because you couldn't park right in front of the store, so you had to like walk around and get places. So then these malls, especially in the Ruhrgebiet, the Centro was a thing. This was after I left, but it's like one of the biggest malls in Europe, or at least at the time, which was in Oberhausen, which is very close to where my parents live. And so then, now people just like to go to the mall because I guess it's easy. You drive, you get out.
I mean, I could talk about this all day. Like where I am more northern, where my family's from, it's now common to get your car and drive up to the Danish border, the big mega shopping zones up there, you know, because they don't offer sales tax specifically to incentivize the Danes to come down and buy.
Well, that was all the thing.
Stuff is new.
That was the thing that when I grew up, people would go to Holland, you know, before open borders, people would go to Holland to smoke weed, and cigarettes, I think, were cheaper there or something. There was some stuff was cheaper there, so people would do that. Sure. Yeah.
Sprit, perhaps. I know if you're near the Austrian border, you always get your Sprit in Austria.
Oh, because
gasoline.
The gas is cheaper in Austria. All right.
Well, I mean, maybe it was when we were there. Anywho, all this to say is that Hoffenheim's not a real club.
Hoffenheim's going down. Looks like.
Hoffenheim's going down.
Although hopefully we're not gonna. I mean, hopefully
we're
not gonna reverse Schnitzel Boys curse them, and now they're gonna go on a tear. I mean, we do feel bad for our American friend Pellegrino Matarazzo.
It's funny how much Pellegrino Matarazzo mirrors Jesse Marsch, you know, in like, you know, the Leeds and then Stuttgart. They're both sacked around the same time, and they both got offers. Jesse Marsch got an offer to coach Southampton, and then Pellegrino got an offer to coach Hoffenheim. And Hoffenheim and Southampton are very similar in that they're like last place, they're struggling, and pretty much both those jobs were very much like a, hey, do you want to hop on this sinking ship while it's sinking? And Jesse Marsch, although originally said yes because he wanted assurances that he was allowed to get relegated, he wasn't given those assurances, so he said no.
right.
But Pellegrino Matarazzo, he said yes, and what we're seeing maybe someone who should have said no. You know, because like when he sticks with Hoffenheim, he's going to get blamed for it, but it's not really his fault. I mean, I really couldn't tell you what's going on in Hoffenheim. You know, John Brooks isn't helping them none. And also, many people will probably say they've never been the same since Ralf Rangnick left. Who knows? I mean, that's been a while, but I don't know. I mean, I couldn't. They had Dieter Hoeneß was with them for a while. They were pretty up and down, and it's just, I think the ship in Hoffenheim is sinking, and Pellegrino Matarazzo has to sink with it. Maybe they'll give him the second division. Maybe he'll get back going again for next season. Maybe it's more of a long-term project there. We'll see. But our hearts go out to Hoffenheim. And the Schnitzel Boys are very curious about the validity of the club.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of, it wouldn't be a lot of upset if they went down, you know. I think
well, another sidestep here, right? People are furious at RB Leipzig. They say, like, no one gets more hate than RB Leipzig. How is Hoffenheim any different? I know they get some hate too, but literally there's not much of a difference between Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig.
They did get a lot of hate also when they came in. Yeah, I think they were also looked down upon. I mean, I think Leipzig. I think the thing that stands out for them is just the cynical name
Right.
of the name of the club. That just goes takes it
Yeah,
to
but
the
that's
next level.
aesthetic,
And
right? Is it the next level? It's just aesthetic to me.
well,
I don't
like
know.
calling
Maybe
it
it is.
RB
Ah.
Rasenballsport so that you can promote your thing. I don't know. It's not like the Hoffenheim. I don't even know what Dietmar Hopp's company is
It's
actually.
SAP, right? I looked
Oh,
it
is
up. It's
it?
like a
Okay.
computer
Right, right,
software,
right, right.
SAP. So that would be if it was called SAP Hoffenheim.
Yeah,
And
if it
then
was
SAP stood
if you
for
called it like Ausdauer
yeah, Programm.
something
Programm.
Programm, sportliches
Uh,
Ausdauerprogramm, Hoffenheim. Yeah,
well, how would you
SAP.
translate that? What's
Right.
the A?
A sporting exercise program.
Yeah, yeah, sure. It also makes
I
way
just
more
made
sense
this
than
up.
grass ball sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, should have done
So
that.
if they were called like SAP Hoffenheim, then that would be the same thing. But they took
I
a
get
lot of grief also. So it's not like yeah, those are definitely the targets of the traditionalists' ire.
if memory
Hoffenheim,
serves.
Wolfsburg, RB Leipzig.
Ralf Ragnick left because they sold Luis Gustavo to Bayern München behind his back. He was not happy, so he left. And the rest is history. Anywho, now going back to the top, just like you alluded to, Dortmund and Schalke had an amazing Review Derby game.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was
a good
pretty.
game.
That was a good game. It was.
Bad for the Bundesliga, but good for the fans, I guess. This was a
I
good
was
game.
pretty unabashedly rooting for Dortmund in this case.
Me too.
But it was not to be.
They dropped 2
I mean,
points.
Schalke like 2 shots, 2 goals, kind of, right? They didn't generate all that much, and
But they shot first, didn't they? I think they had the lead for a while.
no, Dortmund had the lead, and they
They just kept coming back.
equalized. They equalized twice, I think,
Pretty fast.
Yeah, pretty fast.
But for U.S. fans, the alarming thing is Julian Brandt is injured. That's alarming for Dortmund fans.
Yeah.
Their goalkeeper is injured. My fan favorite, Alexander Maya. His name's Alexander Maya, right?
Yeah,
Or Maya is there.
Gregor Kobel is hurt. Marco Reus is hurt. I mean, that's often the case.
And Julian Brandt is hurt. Yeah.
And yet, Gio Reyna did
does
not
get
start.
minutes. That's right.
Did not start. You would think who else has to
Dahoud
go
and
down
Wolf.
for him? You know, Bino Gibbons played on the left side, and they sort of switched things. It seemed like they almost changed their formation just to avoid playing
Gio Reyna. Yeah.
So
Dahoud goes on, Wolf goes on, and then I know it's not his real name, but I call him Bruno Kittens. This is what I hear.
Bruno Kittens.
Bruno Kittens.
Bino Gibbons.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got the start over Gio. So yeah, that's whatever that's going to mean. Yeah, and then it was 2-2.
So, but I mean, it's what you expect. But they had to drop points. So Dortmund were kind of punched in the face midweek against Chelsea. They had their 11-game win streak sort of
that's
ended.
Right. And that was also you want to talk about that?
I was just bringing it up, being like, hopefully Dortmund doesn't lose confidence. It seems like with a loss and a tie here, their confidence is faltered. It's like, no, you got 10 games left in the Bundesliga. Get focused. Keep it up. So I'm keeping a very close eye on them this upcoming weekend for the next Bundesliga game to see if they can still mount some sort of a title challenge and make it interesting up top.
Yeah, they're at home against Köln. So Cologne, they lost to Bochum. So Dortmund is gonna want to win that game. And 100%. Leverkusen is hosting Bayern. So I don't know. Maybe something's possible.
6-0. Yeah,
that Chelsea game was interesting. It was it started again like the first round where it was like, oh, this is going to end 4-4, where it was so open. But
our heads were correct, by the way. Bayern München, we were like, we hope it's 2, but it's likely going to be Bayern, and it's looking like it's probably just going to be Bayern.
Yeah, I mean
Dortmund,
Chelsea in the end deserved to advance for sure. Although Dortmund were a little hard done by, I thought, by this penalty VAR nonsense.
sure. I think they had a goal. Yeah. I should have reviewed it, but although it was 2-0, it looked pretty bad, right? Dortmund didn't have much of a
Yeah,
chance,
they
really.
did not have they didn't generate a lot of stuff. So
And
it
and
wasn't. And Julian Brandt going down early, I think it's a problem.
and Gio Reyna getting on the field early.
Coming in
That's where he got his minutes, and then not
not
really affecting the game at all.
not doing. He had a couple of runs. He had one good cross in the box that nobody connected with. But yeah, overall he was pretty quiet.
It was nice, and Pulisic came on. It was like, oh look, our two best players off of form on the field, the Champions League game, having a good time. Couple of cool cameos, but neither of them are really affecting the game. They're just running around, being there. So good on them.
I mean, yeah, they're both. I guess we'll talk more about it in hour 2. But yeah.
But anyway, Dortmund didn't make it. Germany's hottest team versus England's coldest team, and England's coldest team won 2-0. Which reminds me, last week we talked about how like the Bundesliga does not get the same sort of clout that the English league. You know, like the Bundesliga, the ESPN stream weren't working for like 45 minutes, and you know, and the English NBC, that would never happen. So I'm driving around Hollywood, California, USA, right, City of Stars, and there's so many theaters. Big theaters and big lights with big marquees. Just down the street, driving up to my home here, I do a double take because one of the biggest marquees, one of the biggest theaters right by Hollywood and Vine, in big letters, it says Manchester City versus Crystal Palace, 8:30 a.m. Like come one, come all, like announcement of like a big event.
Wow.
It was on the theater. People are going to the theaters to watch English Premier League
to watch
games.
City and
Crystal Palace. To watch Crystal Palace. You know, and then I go home and I can't get, you know, Bundesliga on my TV for 45 minutes because there's technical difficulties. You know what I mean?
No, the Premier League is in a very different stratosphere.
Yeah.
In almost every way currently.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. So, Dortmund lost to Chelsea. Like I'm saying, keep it up, boys. Like, go get Köln. Bayern München took care of PSG nicely. That makes me very happy.
Pretty comprehensive. I mean, it was very tense for a while. Obviously, first half scoreless. At the half was a pretty tense. But in the end, PSG really not putting up much of a fight. Just kind of going down very quietly.
Yeah, like most years. I think a year or two ago when they made it to the 70s in the final, that was the best PSG's ever done. That's the first time we ever saw PSG put 2 and 2 together. But this PSG is the PSG I remember, like the Zlatan years. He always had a big mouth. But when it came to the quarterfinals, they never broke the quarterfinals. It's just like, okay. And this is the same thing. You can have a big old mouth. You spend money on players, but it's a party over there. They're not an actual team. It's a bunch of, you know, it's Sergio Ramos, Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe. You think they'd be able to pull something off, but
Verratti, yeah. Is this it? Is this it for Messi in the Champions League?
Good question. I mean, I know Inter Miami really wants Messi this summer. You know, and I think that's going to happen. Messi's been learning English randomly over the last 3 years. He has a bunch of US-based sponsors. You know,
you think it's going to happen? I think it's gonna. I think it might happen.
Yeah, it might. I mean, Don Garber said we'll do whatever it takes. He's like, we'll bend or break any rule. Like we don't give a crap.
Well, I mean, what rule would they have to bend? If he's a DP, they can do whatever they want. No.
Well, the flexibility I think they might have to do to him with Beckham. They might have to give him a 20% stake in Miami, and maybe give him a bunch of side
20.
stuff.
But like, really though, 20%. If we believe,
I'm making it up, but.
No, but I've heard this too, but it's just kind of like 20%. Like if you believe these kind of, expansion fee valuation type, 20% of the team is like, that's like the equivalent, give or take, of like $100 million. So he's going to get $100 million.
Yeah. I mean, you have to compete with Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has a blank check because the world gives them money for gas or oil.
All
and
right.
most of the money comes from Europe and the United States. And so they could pay whatever they want. Lionel Messi, I think, what was the offer that we saw? It was like something crazy, like, God, what was it? I want to say it was like, was it $100 million a week or something? It was something nuts. What was it again? No, but it was something nuts. It was like, maybe it was $400 million a year. Like that was the contract they were offering
for Messi in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, something crazy like that. We have to compete with that somehow.
He should take it. If he's going to do that, he should take it. But I mean, I think 100 million. How does that work? Like, how is that worth it? I guess. How do you make back 100 million? I guess. But the point I'm making,
share the profits. Like if a movie stars in a movie, you give them 20% of the gross back end. Something like that.
But they're not going to gross. They're not going to gross that much. This is like, even just having these teams be worth that much is just because of the promise of future riches. It's not because of what the money they're making now. Right now, almost everyone loses money.
Yeah, but if I'm Lionel Messi, there's going to be a Messi bump, which means every stadium he goes to is going to be a full house. If I'm Messi's agent, I make sure we get a percentage of all that. So some sort of percentage gross, which you do not find in an MLS contract.
Yeah,
I imagine.
So that's you're saying that's what they would have to approve to make this happen, right? And I'm sure they're willing. They're willing to do it. I'm just saying, if he wants to get, because he's, how old is he? He's 30.
It's like 35, 36,
35, 36.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess it depends on how many. I mean, if he wants that kind of a deal of like this, like stratospheric, yeah, he's 35 years old. He's going to be 36 in June. So he's going to come to MLS at age 36. This is the time. That's the point. It has to be now. He has, if he wants to get this like completely insane stratospheric kind of money, it has to be this summer. He's not going to get 20% of the team at age 38. No way. So,
well, not Miami, but maybe.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know if. Yeah, I'm not sure if any of this makes economic sense, but
although this is a Bundesliga hour, I do want to talk. I'm glad we're bringing this up. The Messi Inter Miami topics more for the USA hour.
Fair point. I got there from Champions League.
Yeah, that was from Champions League. However, what I do want to bring up in Germany hour, because it is Europe, is something I've been trying to bring up the last 2 weeks. I have a little mini rant or a little mini thing that bothers me.
Here we go.
ESPN and news and soccer news needs to stop giving us updates on what's going on with Al Nasser in Saudi Arabia. Am I right? Every week it's a new article, and Al Nasser did this, Al Nasser did that. It's the Cristiano Ronaldo club. I'm like, who gives a shit? It's like, I don't care about the Saudi Arabian league. I think the people in Saudi Arabia care about it. It's great. I'm not disparaging the league, but like, I don't see why the Western world has to give a crap about them now because Cristiano Ronaldo's over. He was some old fart that no one cared about when he finished here. So there was on ESPN FC's Twitter, they said, Al Nasser scores 3 goals to win the game against Al Ittihad or some crap. And then Ian Dark replied, yeah, but no one really cares. And I love Ian Dark. One of the many reasons I love him. And his comment got like 1 million likes. And I was like, amen, brother. It's like, stop bothering us with this shit.
I think ESPN FC is just the worst in every possible way.
I agree. But it can't just be them. I think everyone gets bothered. Maybe it's just them. Maybe it's only ESPN FC. But I guarantee if you turn it on right now, there's going to be a Cristiano Ronaldo Al Nasser article. And it's like, he's gone. When he goes to Saudi Arabia, we don't want to hear from him ever again. He's in the Wüste. He's in the desert, literally and figuratively. Let him go hang out. Like, we just don't care. Like him going to Saudi Arabia doesn't mean the Saudi Arabian league is now of interest to the general soccer viewing public. It takes more than a player. Just like how Beckham went to the Galaxy. I'm sure a bunch of people shoved Galaxy down everyone's throats. And people are just like, we don't care. Right. Which was true because they didn't care. The Galaxy even toured the world with Beckham and no one showed up at the stadium. and one of the quotes from one of the organizers was just like, "The Galaxy ain't Real Madrid," was the quote as to being like, why?
I mean,
why are the stadiums empty?
And I'm sure they'll say that about Messi. Although, yeah, MLS is more relevant than the Saudi league, I think. Undisputedly, I don't know.
Well, in the Beckham days, I would argue maybe not so much. But nowadays,
but
definitely.
Now getting there. Yeah, and I mean,
Anywho,
I'm sure. Anyway, that's for the second hour. Good point.
We're talking Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. The old fogies are at it again.
And we're gonna talk in the second hour when we talk about the real Champions League, the CONCACAF Champions League. But meanwhile,
Super League.
The UEFA Champions League continues tomorrow. The last of the round of 16. Tomorrow, Leipzig are up next.
Leipzig.
I was laughing after Dortmund lost about this Bild TV.
Because they're all like, they're doing fine. Who cares?
Because they were like, "Oh, the Bundesliga is crushing it. The Premier League is struggling. What do you make of it?" And it's like, listen, this is this is not going to last. This is not going to last.
It took 1 week for that all to be.
Exactly.
1 week later,
you don't want to build a big theory out of this kind of fluky thing. So that did not last, but.
Maybe Leipzig.
I mean, what is sort of fun, though, so far, we'll have to see what happens this week, but it is a very diverse field. We have so far we have 4 teams and 4 different countries. We have Benfica from Portugal, Chelsea from England, Milan, AC Milan from Italy, Bayern from Germany. So it's spread out very nicely.
And Benfica Benfica did not inchworm their way through. They destroyed Club Brugge.
Oh my God, yeah, Club Brugge had nothing. And so I don't know. We'll see how this. I'm sure that trend is not going to continue because all the countries that are left for tomorrow and Wednesday already are represented in the round of. So we're going to have multiple teams from multiple countries, etc. But anyway, Leipzig is the next team that's going to try to represent Germany in the quarterfinals, but they're going to have their hands full there on the road at Man City. And then on Wednesday, we have Frankfurt on the road at Napoli, where I guess they had some protests and they tried to get the fans banned. That didn't work. So they're down 2-0 and they're on the road. Don't put too much money on Frankfurt advancing.
Real Madrid is going to likely be the only Spanish team in this tournament in the quarters. It's pretty rare. That's usually Barcelona and Atletico Madrid are usually live and swinging, but neither of them are here.
True. Yeah, Madrid and Napoli are pretty. On Wednesday, we can make other plans. Those games are not going to be very interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Leipzig is on the 1-1, so they could. Yeah.
If Inter makes it through, that's 3 Italian clubs in the quarters. We haven't seen that in a while either.
That's true. Yeah.
So good on them. It's ebbs and flows, Super League. Sometimes, there were years where, like, I think English Premier League were the Final 4 were all English clubs, or at least 3 of them, right? Then there are years where there's no English clubs in the semis at all.
I mean, the Spanish teams were really dominant for the last few years, and that's not the same. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm excited for it. And then Bundesliga again this weekend, and then we have an international break.
100%. But anyway, yeah, we haven't even talked about that. Hansi Flick in the news, being interviewed by Süddeutsche Zeitung. Maybe we can break that down a little bit next week as we look at it and translate it. But we still have, what's really important with the modern era of football, and Thomas Muller, in the interview, a little preview of the interview, Thomas Muller will not be part of the March or June.
Right, he's going to take a little time.
But he's not necessarily out of the team. He's just going to take a break. As the Thomas Muller, like Germany, keeps trying not to lean on its 35-year-old veteran. It wants.
I don't think he's 35.
Or whatever. It is. He's 33 or 34 or whatever. Anywho,
he seems old because he's been around for so long, but I think he's actually not. Anyway, what are you going to say?
Germany is looking for motivation. Anywhere it could find it. It really needs real motivation. You got the Euros in 2024. You got the next World Cup here in the United States coming up. Where do you think Anyway, so Rudi Völler was on Bild last week. We still have more of that. And the hard-hitting journalists at Bild asked Rudi Völler a really, really important question. Do you have that? Anyway?
Yes, I do.
Let's see what Rudi Völler has to say about motivation and motivating his players.
Wir haben noch eine weitere Frage für Sie vorbereitet, und zwar folgende. Haben Sie jemals Rocky-Filme mit Ihrer Mannschaft oder Ihren Mannschaften angesehen und welche Vorbilder haben Sie? Fragt Andreas Linke.
So this is the hard-hitting journalism of Bild. We got a sample of it last week where there was a whole theory constructed out of 2 games. Anyway, and now the question for Rudi is, have you ever showed Rocky movies with your teams? And who are your idols? Who are your idols?
And for those at home, there's a sweaty picture of a young Sylvester Stallone as Rocky just there.
Yeah, classic picture.
Habe ich Rocky-Filme, die habe ich natürlich gesehen, weil ich ja auch die Generation der 80er Jahre bin, ne? Ist ja klar.
Oh, so Rudi is immediately copying to having seen all these movies because he is, he's our generation. He's a child of the 80s, much like myself.
Die haben wir dann alle noch im Kino gesehen, die Filme. Zu der Zeit natürlich überragend, die hat jeder gerne gesehen.
Überragend! At the time, überragend. At the time, outstanding, these films. Everybody loved them.
Still
according to Rudi.
Haben Sie diese
mit
Filme
den
auch
Mannschaften
motiviert?
als glaube ich nicht und Vorbilder mit den
But the reporter wants to really nail him down. Says, have those movies motivated you? And he's like, no, not really.
Filmen jetzt, wie meint er das? Welche Vorbilder haben Sie? Naja, generell Vorbilder. Ja, früher als Spieler habe ich natürlich für Gerd Müller geschwärmt, für Günter Netze, wie wir alle.
Yeah, his idols when he was younger and a player, he was into Gerd Müller, of course, and Günter Netzer.
Das alle getan haben früher.
Like everybody else back then.
Später, ja.
This is such a Ruhrgebiet. My dad does this. I do this
Right.
too. It's like, trying to figure out, somebody asks you a reflective question, you're like,
My dad, same thing for Ruhrgebiet. People for the Ruhrgebiet, like it's in the culture not to care about anything. That's the
Well,
point.
it's just it's in the culture not to go too
into
deep.
anything. Yeah.
Rudi
Das
Völler.
war mehr so in der aktiven Zeit. Nein, in der aktiven Zeit hat man natürlich, oder wenn man noch kleiner ist, jünger ist.
Yeah. When I was active, when he was still playing, that's when he was thinking about these things when he was younger. Now he doesn't have any role
Da hat man
models.
natürlich
Rudi is his own role model. What does he need? He's Rudi Völler. He doesn't need role
gerade im Fußball
models.
dann seine Vorbilder, wie eben gesagt, Gerd Müller hat es halt immer reingemacht vorne. Günter Netze mit seiner Art dann auch.
He liked that Gerd Müller always, would always finish, and Günter Netzer, his way was appealing to him.
Fußball zu spielen, das hat ja, hat jeder den Starschnitt an der Wand gehabt. Ne?
Ich,
Du auch.
Günter
Ne?
Netzer.
Genau.
Den Starschnitt. Do we need to have a Sprachgefühl? Do you know what a Starschnitt is?
No, star cut. What's a star
A
cut?
star cut. Oh,
What is that? Oh,
and it's not quite worthy of a Sprachgefühl because it's not a soccer thing. Der Starschnitt. This would be. It's so funny. I haven't thought about this in 30 years. They would have back then. It was all magazines. They would have. I don't know if Kicker had this, but definitely Bravo. Are you familiar with the magazine Bravo?
Is it Stern? I know Stern. Is it like that?
Stern is for adults. Stern
No,
is
not
like
Stern.
Stern and Spiegel are
Right.
like journalistic magazines. Spiegel more journalism. Stern a little bit more photo driven,
Got it.
perhaps, and a little more gossipy.
Yeah, gossip magazines. Yeah.
But no, Bravo was a magazine specifically aimed at teenagers. So this would cover. This
Like
would
Teen
cover.
Beat or something.
Yeah,
Like,
and it was a uniquely German thing because in addition to music, a lot of music and celebrity kind of articles, there was a sex education aspect
Oh,
to
nice.
Bravo. So there would be like there was some nudity, there'd be like topless photos of topless ladies, and there would be advice about sexual issues for teenagers. You would not find this in America, in an American
But you
teen,
should.
I guess Teen Vogue and Cosmopolitan, I guess, are a little bit like this, although they're also aimed at a slightly larger. Anyway.
But no, in Germany, they're way more. They have no censorship.
Yeah, a little more. Right. I guess, especially in the 70s, 80s, a lot more straightforward. And in Bravo, and perhaps also in Kicker. Kicker is the soccer magazine of the day. There was the Starschnitt, and basically, the Starschnitt would be a player. I guess in this case, he's talking about Günter Netzer Starschnitt. Or in Bravo, they would have a pop star, the pop star du jour, and they would basically have a page in every issue of this magazine that would have a piece of this life-size picture of the person. And that's the Starschnitt. So this would basically, this life,
and you have to cut it out.
True to form, life-size picture. They would break it down into, I don't know how many, 36 different parts. And so every week, you would get that page and then you would cut it out. That's why it's the Starschnitt. The star is the star and the Schnitt is the cut. So you would, if you were devoted to this project, you would every week you would cut out your little thing and you would tape it all together, and then you'd have like life-size Günter Netzer on your wall.
So it's only in one magazine, or is it over 36 editions you get Günter Netzer?
Yeah, over every week there's a piece every week.
So every year there's a new Starschnitt.
I don't remember. I just threw out this is 36. It has to be something like that. I don't know how many parts this was generally.
Oh, that's fun.
So it was over certainly over a long time, multiple weeks.
Did you ever cut out a Starschnitt?
I did not. No, I did not cut out a Starschnitt. But I guess it was, it was a way to get people to really commit. Like, you needed to get the issue every week. You couldn't if you were missing Günter Netzer's right knee, you'd be screwed.
Very cool. Or you have to
anyway, so Rudi had the Günter Netzer Starschnitt on his wall. Sorry to get sidetracked here.
Wie haben Sie sich dann motiviert?
Oh, sorry. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, Günter, it's funny we're invoking Günter Netzer because he was at the Bayern game. Did you see him on the broadcast?
Oh, I did. Yeah,
he was in the crowd, and the announcer did not know who he was.
Oh, that's sad.
Anyway,
sorry. So she wants to know if this motivated him. I don't know. She keeps asking if this was motivating, and he's gonna do the thing again. I bet. Where he goes like, oh.
Als aktiver Spieler, nicht durch Rocky-Filme, aber wie haben Sie sich motiviert?
Ja, das ist ja, zu meiner Zeit gab es ja noch nicht so mit diesen Motivations...
I love that.
Oh, just amazing. So she asks, actually her question was, I guess it wasn't Rocky, but like, what did you use for motivation back when you were a player? And he said, well, in those days, this wasn't really a thing. Thinking about...
He says motivation wasn't really a thing.
Motivation wasn't really a thing.
Filmen oder Einspielen.
Or people like using movies.
Dann in der Kabine noch Filme zu zeigen. Ja.
Or like, showing movies in the dressing room. Like, that was not a thing in his day.
Wir haben das schon hinbekommen. Ne? Ich sage immer so gerne, Fußball muss man dann auch lieben. Schon nicht nur jetzt, auch so in der aktiven Zeit.
You have to love it. He said you have to Fußball, the game, you have to love it. When you're an active player.
Wenn man das nicht als Pflichtaufgabe ansieht, sondern wirklich als ein begeisterter Fußball.
So that it's not just a job or like a chore that you have to do, but you have to really feel it and be enthusiastic about it.
To be clear, we're talking foosball, right? The table game.
No, the game of soccer.
I know.
Fußball.
Fußball.
I guess, yeah, that is so weird. That's what
dann ist es ja das Nonplusultra. Das ist halt einfach wichtig, dass man sich halt immer wieder, und das ist ja das Schöne an dieser Sportart, dass man sich halt begeistert und immer wieder dann auch wenn ich nicht mehr aktiv bin, auch jetzt in einer anderen Funktion einfach gern Fußball schaut.
Herr Völler, wir haben noch eine...
This is actually quite... I find it quite moving to listen to him. That he says you need the love of the game. If you love the game, then playing it at a high level is the greatest thing. And then you don't, that's the motivation, and that's what keeps you going. this enthusiasm and this passion for the game. And even now, and that's the beauty of it, that he says even now that he doesn't play anymore and it's his job, but he still enjoys watching it. He still enjoys it, and he still has a passion for it.
That is nice. And do you hear that, Julian Brandt and Timo Werner, and
so this is now your
this is motivation for them. It's the love of the game. Okay, so Niklas Füllkrug, I think, is currently embodying the love of the game. He aged like a fine wine. He is the hot player of the season, and maybe Niklas Füllkrug will be the Chris Wondolowski of German soccer. Maybe he'll be his best years will be in his 30s. We'll see. We will see, but that's
I don't think we know that these younger players don't love the game. You think it's you think there's a lack of passion?
Perhaps. I know when you ask a lot of younger players don't know anything about older players. So they never watched the game, or if they did, it was very specific that they like Neymar or something. That's it. That they couldn't tell you. Like when my dad was playing out in the fields in the Ruhrgebiet when he was a kid, he knew every player, every name, all the guys,
me too.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's a thing anymore. Like Weston McKennie probably seems to me, and I don't know if this is a bad thing, by the way. Weston McKennie seems to be incredibly aloof on any type of soccer that happened when he was growing up. Like he couldn't. I don't think he knew much about soccer. Like he played it a lot, but I don't think he watched it a lot. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it makes him more fearless on the field and ready to go and tackle things. But
Weston McKennie wouldn't cut out the Ronaldo star Schnitt. No.
The big full-grown Ronaldo made out of 30 magazines, which must be incredibly ugly looking, covered in tape. Hans Wolf, gute Abend, Jungs. Hello, Hans Wolf.
Hello, Hans Wolf.
Are you? Oh God, I want to talk to you earlier. No, it's you, the NYCFC guy. I want to talk to the BVB LAFC fan, because I guess the last bit of news is that Bayern München is now associated with LAFC.
Yeah, and this much formerly much promoted and talked about collaboration between FC Dallas and Bayern Munich just kind of died silently, right? Like this.
Yeah, I guess that's still a thing, right? I don't know. I don't.
It's
really
not.
Know
we
what
found
this
out.
is.
We found out on Twitter that it's not. That they still have some kind of business agreement, but they're no longer going to collaborate. But yeah, what is it exactly?
I don't know what it is.
I saw this on of course on US soccer Twitter. Yeah. And I was actually checking because I was like, I bet this is not even news in Germany, but that's not true. Kicker has it on their website.
Good for LAFC.
It's not a huge headline, but there is an article here, and it's Red and Gold Football is the name of the name of the project, and the purpose is to collaborate in player development.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I'd love to know exactly what that means, because it's like they've had these deals before. The FC Dallas deal was fruitful, way more fruitful than I thought it would be. Taylor Booth came from it. Chris Richards, I guess, is the big sort of example of that. None of them are regular Bayern München players. As far as MLS and Bayern goes, it's Alphonso Davies, and he's up in Vancouver. Hans Wolf. Good to see you. Good Abend, Jung. Correct, NYCFC.
Köln. Yeah, it's good. It's good he tuned in late. I'm sorry that my team might. You must not be happy about how this weekend went.
Oh, he's the NYCFC Bochum man. So no fighting in the stands, you two. Anywho, I'm saying it's very interesting that LAFC had a partnership with Borussia Dortmund, and now they partnered with Bayern München, which leads to two things. One, what does that mean? I've heard about these agreements forever. Real Salt Lake and Hannover 96 had an agreement. Borussia Mönchengladbach and Colorado Rapids had an agreement once upon a time, believe it or not. I'm just like, what is that? I don't know. What they keep announcing it. Like with Hannover and Real Salt Lake, it was like their youth teams are going to play our youth teams and loans, and none of that ever happens. I don't know what the deal is. So I look at this LAFC Bayern München thing, and if I'm Bayern München, does it just mean you get first dibs to the videos of the youth players? I don't, because they could just buy whoever they want anyway from LAFC's youth academy. They don't need to sign an agreement.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, I don't know.
So-
I'm not sure what's in it for LAFC. They're going to take Bayern players on loan. On loan.
Maybe I'd take that. I mean, Timothy Tillman's there. He's crushing it. Timothy Tillman scored a great goal over the weekend. He's technically from Bayern's academy, so maybe that was a preview into a bigger. This might have been maybe part of that agreement. Maybe Bayern München jerseys are going to be sold at LAFC fan shop. Maybe that's what Bayern's trying to get out of it.
No,
I don't know. I mean, you can just buy them online. I don't know after the LAFC fan shop to buy them, but
interesting. Interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I was thinking Bjorn during the match.
Hans was thinking, "Oh, that's very sweet." You were like, "Well, this sucks, but at least he'll be happy." That's very nice.
All right. Well, Hans, we're going to talk MLS.
Or I mean, that's what I'm assuming. That's my interpretation. Maybe you were like, "Oh, fuck that guy."
Well, there's 3 emojis in the chat. There's 3 emojis. All right, let's analyze these emojis. The first one was look it up like this, like uh-oh. The second one has a big smile, right? And the third one
is relief.
The guy laughing, right?
A little bit of relief. Yeah. I was very happy. I couldn't believe it. I was immediately after the early lead, I texted a friend of mine. I was like, "Oh, we got a lead that we're going to piss away. That's wonderful." But that's not what happened.
You have the Ruhrgebiet in you. The whole like, who cares? This ain't going to be a thing. You're
All
protecting your. Can I be a psychologist to the Ruhrgebiet for a second?
Oh, absolutely. I'm protecting myself from disappointment. Yeah.
As a man who's had a Ruhrgebiet father for years, I could talk about this for hours. Anywho.
Sure. Well, for me, it's going to be more like when I was there, I would go to Zweite Bundesliga games, no problem. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But now that I'm here, it does make a big difference. You don't see them, and when they go down, there's no games, so that would be a little sad. Anyway, That's it. Yeah, we've done it.
We've done it. Deutschland for the week. Next week, we've got previews for the national team. We've got the results of the Champions League. Good Frankfurt make it past Napoli. We'll see. That's a creamy. We have to wait. We'll see if Borussia Dortmund have Köln next week, Hans. Although you're rooting for Köln, I'd love to see Borussia Dortmund keep up the pace with Bayern München, unfortunately. So we'll see that moving forward. Anyway, that's been This Week in German Soccer. We'll see you in the USA Hour. Otherwise, bis nächste Woche. Tschüss.
Tschüss.